Podcast, the podcast where comics are my shtick. My name is Blake T. Wild, and today we are actually talking about some comic books, unlike last week, when it was all about movies that I needed to catch up on discussing, and everybody in the comments of those YouTube shorts was like, why are you talking about Shazam 2? That movie came out almost a year ago. If you are interested in comic books, check out my Etsy shop, blaketwild.etsy.com. That is the sponsor of this week's episode of the Comic Shtick Podcast. Check out my comics, The Custodians, Agents of Cross, and Destructo Boy are available on there. I am also serializing both The Custodians and the complete Destructo Boy series, issues 1 through 5, on my Patreon account, patreon.com/smokiesvideos. There you can also find audio commentaries for movies. Marvel Rewind and DC Rewind are two that I'm starting up right now. I just watched Iron Man from 2008, so I'm going to be doing that, just watching the entirety of the Snyderverse and the entirety of the MCU from the beginning. I also am doing Popcorn, which will just sort of be any sort of movie that I'm feeling like I'll watch. I'll have a commentary, and I'll do a little short video afterwards where I kind of recap and analyze the film. You can also get access to early videos when they're available, and I'm doing behind-the-scenes sort of stuff regarding my my comic, The Custodians, Agents of Cross, as well. You'll be able to see how I'm working on the upcoming issues and some getting-seen stuff, you know, cool stuff like that. Check it out. There's a lot of cool stuff on there. But let's get right into this week's episode with some very sad news, and that is the passing of Keith Giffen, one of the greats of comic book stardom, prolific writer, prolific artist. He did a lot of work on the 52 series. I am personally a huge fan of him due to his creation of Ambush Bug, one of my favorite DC comic characters. I absolutely adore the character of Ambush Bug. I think, just about every one of Keith Giffen's like series. Maybe I'm missing like 2 or 3 issues of Ambush Bug, but I love that series and that character. And Keith Giffen, it was a shock. It was a surprise to see that he had passed away. But let's not dwell on the sadness of it. Let's dwell on his life and just a cool dude that he was, because his final post on Facebook was shared, which was, quote, "I told them I was sick. Anything not to go to New York Comic Con. Thanks. Keith Giffen, 1952 to 2023. Bwahahaha." What a fucking great way to send yourself off into the ether. There's no better way than that. The only one I can think of is Carrie Fisher, who told people that whenever she died, she wanted people to say that her circumstance of death was that, what was it, she got drunk and strangled herself with her bra and drowned or something like that. I'm now moving on to comic book news. Well, not news. These are comic books that I have read. I am behind greatly on my comic reading. I sort of fell off. No, I didn't sort of fell off. I did fall off of the Ryan North, can't remember the other guy's name, Fantastic Four series, which I fucking loved when it was coming out. But I just didn't have the time to, you know, make sure I got each issue. So at this point, I'm kind of just waiting for the trade paperbacks to come out for that. So none of this stuff is really that recent. The most recent one is the first, which is Gargoyle of Gotham by Rafael Grampa. I love him. I have followed him online for years. He's a big inspiration artistically. And it's really cool that he is getting to do his own book. He previously for DC did, I think the most recent one I want to say was Dark Knight Golden Child, that's what it is. Almost forgot the name. Where Darkseid is spouting out the trying to get the anti-life equation by tearing apart people of America through Donald Trump, which I really enjoyed. I am one of the few people who loved Dark Knight Golden Child. Shocker, I know, coming from the guy who made an hour-and-a-half long analysis on why Frank Miller's Batman comics are great. But Gargoyle of Gotham, I thought it was very good. Obviously, I love the art. The writing was surprisingly well put together. Oftentimes with comic book professionals, you'll see the ones that are primarily artists aren't always the best writers. But I thought this was very well done. Some of it was a bit weird, just in how it's phrased, but I get the feeling that might just be something due to the fact that English is not his first language. But other than that, it's fantastic. Great coloring. I can't remember the colorist, but I don't think it was Rafael Grampa. I'm pretty sure it was somebody else, but the coloring is exquisite. There's also a black and white version of it, which is also neat to look at, but I just really think that the coloring just adds such a significant touch to it. It's not overdone, overblown like a lot of current day digital coloring is. It really works well with the art. The lettering is very fun and energetic and life-filled. Just another way to say energetic, I suppose. It's an interesting villain. Completely new villain created entirely for this book, so you kind of can guess who it's gonna who the reveal is, I guess. But there is also another reveal at the very end. I won't spoil it, but I thought that it was an interesting little, oh shit, I didn't even consider that. The villain also, they just look cool. It's a very cool design. I really enjoyed the early 1930s cartoon inspiration that he uses in this. But the major thing I did not like is Bruce Wayne's characterization. I am sick to death of the Bruce Wayne must die sort of idea of Batman. Oh, well, Bruce Wayne is really the mask. Batman is who he really is. And to be Batman, he has to stop being Bruce Wayne. Blah, 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 blah. I can only assume that it's just for this issue, and then hopefully, God willing, he doesn't actually go that route of having... Because there's this whole thing where Bruce Wayne is planning... Well, I guess I should say Batman, where Batman is planning on killing Bruce Wayne by, staging a car crash and all this and that, so he can be Batman full-time. And I don't like that, because something like that just takes away from the character too much. It's almost like if you had Clark Kent reveal that he was Superman. But with the way the things are going, and sort of the fact that Rafael Grampa is admits in character as Alfred that, that's a stupid idea, because Alfred is oh, that's preposterous. I'm not going to do that. I'm not calling you Batman all the time. You're Bruce Wayne. I get the feeling that it's not going to be an actual thing to this character. It'll be resolved at the end through some sort of emotional climax, I'd imagine. But I highly recommend it, Gargoyle of Gotham. And one I cannot recommend is the, from several months ago, Blade #1. Can't remember who wrote it, who did the art, but I just honestly did not care for it. I could not get into it. I picked it up because I liked the cover. And that's about that. The art inside hurt my eyes. It's this weird anime, almost 3D looking artwork and coloring effects, and I just did not care for it. I could not get into it. Was not interested. What I was interested in, and am very interested in continuing, is something called Children of the Comet. It is an independent publication. I can't remember who is the publisher for it, but definitely search this one out. It is great. It is excellent. The art is fantastic. It's a really fun story about... it's pretty much the BPRD slash Hellboy meets X-Men, but they're darker, is probably the best way you can describe Children of the Comet. It's Halley's Comet. Every however many years, like 75 years that Halley's Comet passes the Earth, it releases some sort of radiation, some sort of chemical into the air that causes children that are born on that day or night, whenever it passes by, to be granted powers. They become mutants, pretty much, via Halley's Comet, which already is such a cool idea to take on just the obvious sort of spin on Marvel's mutants. Or like the metahuman gene, or whatever you want to call it. It's a really neat idea. I really enjoy it. It's very clever. It's kind of esoteric. And we follow, I can't remember any of the characters' names, but he looks like a gray alien. And he has just these crazy powers, and he leads this just odd, almost nonsensical team of other children of the comet, which is what they call them, and they act as like protectors for other people. This issue, it deals with this like cult of Satanists trying to sacrifice 3 children of the comet, 3 people who have these mutations of various powers and abilities, and the team comes through and saves them. And it's just such a creative story. The art is fantastic. I adore this. This is my favorite thing I think I've read in quite a while, although I haven't read that many new comics in quite a while, as you can see, but this is the one that stands out the most. I went through Midtown Comics, which is where I get all my books from, all my new ones anyway, and I was like looking through past publications, past whatever's come out in the past couple months, and nothing really caught my fancy like Children of the Comet did. I highly recommend you check it out. And finally, I'm very late in this, but I finally got around to reading Superman and the Authority by Grant Morrison. And I can see his name written. I just can't fucking remember it. It's not what I expected. Not at all. It's definitely a Grant Morrison book in that issues can be very anticlimactic in terms of what happens. Like, there's this sort of big buildup, and then this crisis is solved very quickly. I'm not hating that. I'm a fan of that. I'm into it. I don't care for when comics have overproduced, overextended fight scenes. I'd much prefer something more interesting to happen than just a bunch of people fight each other. That's why in a lot of my videos, when there's big fight scenes that happen, I'll just say, and then they fight for a couple pages, and I'll move past it as quickly as possible. But it's really cool. The art is fantastic. Each character is of this new Authority team is introduced with different art. Something I did not know and was shocked by is that this is apparently canon to the main DC universe. Like, at the time when this was written, there was Grant Morrison came out in an interview and said that the primary reason that he came back and did this is because of Dan Didio wanting to make Superman a fascist in the mainstream universe. And he was like, oh, no, not... Fuck, that was a terrible accent. Oh, hello there. My name's Grant Morrison. No, that's not what we're doing. Superman, he can never be a fascist. He's never going to be that. Unless it's some fancy, diddly, alternate reality. Mainstream Superman, he is the goodness that embodies all of humanity. And there's no way I'm letting you do that, Dan Didio. Not my best Grant Morrison impression. I haven't done it in a while, so I haven't had practice. But that gets the point across. In this, Superman talks about like this weird time travel experience that he has. He's old now. He can't fly. He can only hover like 3 inches above the floor. He uses the Supermobile, which is the toy from the old 80s Superpowers toy line with the giant fists that come out. And he's just recruiting this team to... I'm honestly not sure why, because you think it's going to be like, oh yeah, Superman's trying to find a team of new, younger heroes who are capable of doing all this stuff, like finding individuals who each have an aspect of Superman's powers and identity, and bringing them together to make this like team that comprises the essence of Superman. And we kind of get that. But then at the end it's revealed that, oh, hey, he's going to War World to fight Mongol. Check it out in Action Comics 1036. And I was like, what the fuck is this? What? This is a setup for an actual Action Comics plotline? What? And it just sort of fell apart from there. I looked it up, that War World thing. It's apparently pretty good. I haven't read it, obviously. I think my favorite part of this book, aside from obviously Grant Morrison writing it, is Ultra Humanite. I'll be honest, I was very ignorant of who Ultra Humanite really was as a character in their history. I never knew that Ultra Humanite was really the genesis, the proto-genesis of, like, what superhero comics would become. Obviously, it's insane that Superman is just constantly what comics would become. You can find in, like, the first 20 issues of Superman. Action Comics #1. Superman is, he has the cape, he has the tights, he has the suit, spandex, all these powers. Action Comics #13, the first appearance of Ultra Humanite, who at that point was just a crazy, megalomaniacal scientist hell-bent on controlling the world. It's like the first super villain that Superman had to face. And then eventually he gets his weird albino ape body, which everybody's familiar with. Ultra Humanite, I also learned, was he's killed off and he's kind of just replaced by Lex Luthor, who, if I remember correctly, the original one, I want to say, was an Eastern European guy. That was then carried over to Earth 2 for the JSA section. But anyway, Ultra Humanite, really cool character. I am getting into Ultra Humanite. I'm trying to find just specific cool stories involving him. I just bought it's like a 3-issue series from the early 80s of it was just Justice League. Of Justice League, where it's the storyline that Ultra Humanite comes back, because he dies, and then he's just dead for like 20 years. Nobody uses the character, and they bring him back in this Justice League storyline, and that's where he gets the giant albino ape body that everybody knows and loves. Before this, all I knew of Ultra Humanite was just his appearance in the Justice League animated cartoon. And I don't know why I never really got into Ultra Humanite. I guess it's just because I knew that there wasn't a lot with him, but I've always liked him. It's just, his design is so striking. I've always preferred him to Gorilla Grodd. I've always thought he was a more interesting character. I don't know if I was ever familiar with the fact that it's just a man's brain and a giant ape. That's something I possibly could have known. I don't remember. But reading this, and then like the reveal that it's Ultra Humanite is the main villain, alongside Brainiac, kind of, I was like, holy shit, somebody's finally using Ultra Brainiac. That's insane. Of course it's Grant Morrison, that makes sense. But like, goddamn, I can't think of like any time was the last time I saw him in anything. I really like Ultra Humanite. Like I was saying, he's just such a cool design. His the Christmas episode from the Justice League animated show just always stands out in my mind. And he's just a really cool character that does not get enough love and attention that he should. And that is the end of my TEDx talk. Moving on to some actual comic-related news. New York Comic Con was recent, and we got some cool stuff coming out of there, such as the return of Elseworlds this January 2024. Elseworlds is returning. Here's hoping they continue it, because how did Black Label turn out? Are they still doing Black Label? I don't know if they are. Maybe if this works, we'll get Vertigo to come back too. I don't cross your fingers. Gotham by Gaslight, The Kryptonian Age by Andy Diggle and Leandro Fernandez is coming out. So that is going to be the third Gotham by Gaslight story. The first is obviously the classic Jack the Ripper. The second is inspired by... What is it inspired by? Is it the sequel to The Time Machine, I think? It's something like that. It's a character who seems very Ra's al Ghul, because he wants to... he, like, flies around in a giant Zeppelin, and he wants to destroy Gotham, but it's not Ra's al Ghul. That was the second one that came out. I'm not sure when exactly. It's a fun story. The guy has like weird automaton servants and stuff. It's neat. But I'm looking forward to Gotham by Gaslight: The Kryptonian Age. I think we have seen kind of what Superman looks like in this world. I feel like there's something about Gotham by Gaslight and Multiversity. But I don't know. Let's see if they base his look off of that. Who knows? There is Batman the Barbarian by Greg Smallwood. I cannot care less about this. Greg Smallwood, he was on The Human Target with Tom King. And this is about Batman being a barbarian. Doesn't pique any interest in me at all. Dark Knights of Steel, All Winter by Jay Kristoff and Tercio Cons. I honestly don't know what that is. I don't remember seeing a cover for it. Actually, you know what? While I'm here, I'm going to use my... I haven't done this in a while. I'm going to use my one episode Google to look up the covers of these fucking things. Let's see. Batman... Where the fuck is it? Dark Knights of Steel. Oh, here we go. Set in the world of Tom Taylor and Yasmin Putri's hit series, this new series sees Deathstroke attempting to deal with a curse that has plunged the world into a permanent winter. Oh, it's that thing. I don't remember what the what the comic was called, but I'm vaguely familiar with it, and I still don't care. Batman the Barbarian, yeah, it's just what it sounds like. Oh, and Gotham by Gaslight has the 19th Century Justice League was apparently going to be formed. Holy shit, it's going to be 12 issues. Why is this a maxi series? That's insane. I was not expecting it to be 12 fucking issues. We got Green Lantern Dark. In a post-apocalyptic world overrun by monsters, humanity has one hope to survive. But the Green Lantern has been missing for years. Well, I guess he's not the one hope, is he? 7 issues by Tate Brumble and Werther Del Edera. It could be interesting. Depends. The cover, I guess, looks neat. Let's see. Yeah, that looks alright. But, like, you know, what are you going to learn from a cover, really? There's, like, a weird zombie man who's missing an eye, and, like... The Green Lantern person has like a cloak and a staff. Maybe not. I don't know. Batman Nightfire. When Gotham City is destroyed in an all-encompassing blaze, Bruce Wayne decides to do something he's never done before. Prevent the tragedy by traveling back in time. When has he not done something like that before? Really? Of course things don't go well. 6 issues by Clay and Seth Mann. Again, so far, Gotham by Gaslight is the only one I'm very interested in. I'm definitely not interested in this last one, which is DC vs. Vampires World War V. Matthew Rosenberg. Oh, it is Otto Schmidt, though. He is a great artist. Return for a new year-long series that sees Barbara Gordon installed as the Queen of the Undead? Which is bad news for humanity, all things considered, says this article. So, yeah. Mixed bag of reveals. DC vs. Vampires, I never read any of those. I watched the Comic Pop video on it, though, and that's the furthest I'm ever going to get to it. Or that's the closest I'm ever going to get to it, rather. Yeah, none of those really seem interesting at all, aside from the Gotham by Gaslight one. I have hopes for Green Lantern Dark. But yeah, the other one's just, I don't know, maybe the Batman Nightfire, just to see how Batman time traveling goes wrong. Like, how far back is he gonna go, I guess? Like, what the fuck causes the fire anyway? It doesn't, it just says it's encompassed by a giant fire. It doesn't say how or when or why. It couldn't even, possibly it could have not been from a supervillain. It could have just been a fire. Ghost Machine was announced as a new publisher. Ghost Machine is from a large, it's Image Comics. It's a group of writers and artists who've come together, quote, as they say here, "Great comics come from great characters, and equity comes from true artistic ownership." Committed to these ideals and inspired by those who came before us, Ghost Machine launches new characters from all genres with Geiger, Redcoat, Rook, the Rocketfellers, and many, many more. Created by the most successful and established names in comics, our heroes' stories are painted across American history, the deepest reaching of space, and the neighborhood one street over. I looked into it. They do Jungle Jim? Is that what it's called? The robot soldier in Vietnam. So I'm familiar with that one. I've heard of Geiger before. People seem really excited about Geiger, like, coming back, I guess. But I don't know. Didn't Scott Snyder do something like in the past year that was like, oh my gosh, look at all these creators coming together to make our own imprint and our own publication house. It's called, was it Distillery or something like that? Because that's a great name for a comic publisher. But that seemed more like NFT-y, more digital, weird stuff like that. This one is like full on, like, yeah, we're publishing our own comics and shit. So, you know, I wish them luck. Good luck to them. I doubt I'm gonna read any of those books. Timeless #1 solicitation. This is some sort of weird Marvel event, I guess, that I found on Midtown Comics, and I just thought it was dumb. So I wanted to make fun of it and talk about it here. The Moon Knight, unending, has risen, a nightmare born of Stark Tech, the eternal machine, and the god of the moon. Now all of Earth bows before his overwhelming power. But one man stands against Khonshu's coming tide of chaos, Power Man. The Marvel Universe's final living superhero. But who is Power Man? And how did he come to wield the unstable powers of the Sentry, the Hulk, and Iron Fist? What dark, deeply personal conflict underpins this mind-bending apocalypse? And at the end of the line, can the Marvel Universe truly be saved? Plus a shocking glimpse into the next year of Marvel stories. So yeah, that is just full-on kid playing in a toy box. And that can be a good thing. That can be a great way to describe a comic series. But for that to happen, I personally feel like there needs to be some kind of virtue, might be the word I'm looking for, emotion from the creator going into it, a care for what they're making. But this solicitation doesn't seem like that. Moon Knight unending, a nightmare born of Stark Tech and the god of the moon. So, oh my gosh, people like Moon Knight. Moon Knight's popular. Let's get Moon Knight. Moon Knight. And he has Stark Tech. And he's the evil god of the moon. And Power Man. I don't know if people still want Power Man, but here he is. Well, maybe that's because people don't want Power Man. So let's give him the Hulk's powers, Iron Fist's powers, and the Sentry's powers. Why the Sentry? Of all possible characters. What has the Sentry been doing recently, by the way? Where's he been? I guess probably staying inside since he's agoraphobic. But what is this? Timeless #1? How long is this going for? What is this series? What is happening? Is anybody looking forward to this? I guess it's better than whatever Zeb Wells is doing in Spider-Man, but come on. Here's a comic I am looking quite a lot forward to. the Dracula graphic novel, some sort of origin of Dracula, which kind of sounds like it's going to be like medieval warfare, Vlad the Impaler-inspired story by Matt Wagner, Grendel's own, and Kelly Jones. I love Kelly Jones. If you saw my eyes glance down there, it's because I was considering picking up my Kelly Jones Artist Edition Batman book, which is about like this fucking big. I'm not gonna do that, but I am very excited for this. I think it's gonna be Kickstarter, so look forward to that if you're interested in Matt Wagner and Kelly Jones making a Dracula book. Speaking of Matt Wagner, why is Grendel so popular? Why do people like Grendel? All right, moving into the mixed media section of the podcast. Best Buy will continue to sell movies and TV shows on physical discs through the 2023 holiday shopping season, online and in stores, before discontinuing sales 2024. So last week I brought up that Disney is already testing the waters for their shit in Australia by discontinuing physical media, and now Best Buy is doing it as well. But I feel like in Best Buy's case, it's because the company is going to very slowly be falling to disrepair until its eventual close. Again, it is not a good sign for physical media, so hoard it while you can. Christoph Waltz joins Oscar Isaac, Mia Goth, and Andrew Garfield in Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein. I don't know if they've announced who any of these people are going to be playing. I can see Oscar Isaac being Frankenstein, Victor Frankenstein, obviously. Mia Goth being Elizabeth. Is that his adoptive sister / wife's name? Andrew Garfield, assuming he's not playing Victor Frankenstein, he's probably going to be Victor Frankenstein's like best friend. Christoph Waltz, the father, or some sort of guy who's after them. Here we go. Squid Game: The Challenge, set to premiere on Netflix November 2023 on November 22nd. Jesus Christ. Yeah, so you remember that TV show about a horrible game show that, was a commentary on capitalism? Well, we turned it into a real reality show! Oh my god. Miramax Television has signed a wide-ranging deal with Trancas to develop and co-produce a Halloween TV series. And in the article, it made reference to the fact that they maybe want to, I don't know where this information came from. Someone wants to make it a universe, a cinematic universe. Ooh, the catch-all, the big word of the past 15 years, cinematic universe. Halloween cinematic universe. So that is probably not going to be good. What was the last good... I was going to say Halloween show, but there's never been a Halloween TV show. What was the last good horror TV show about like a sort of slasher killer? I want to say Scream Queens. And that was about 10 years ago. That was almost 10 years ago. Deadpool 3 was expected to keep its May 2024 release, according to The Wrap, with the fact that the actors' strikes are still continuing, and the studios are refusing to continue negotiations. I doubt that's ever going to happen. There are also some Deadpool rumors, like Taylor Swift playing either Dazzler, or... Dazzler's what everybody says Taylor Swift is going to play if she is in Deadpool 3. I think that is ridiculous. That is typecasting. I think if Taylor Swift is in Deadpool 3, she is going to be playing Lady Deadpool. Because it's about the multiverse. And what greater organization to deal with the multiverse than the Deadpool Corps? You got Lady Deadpool, you got Kidpool, you got Dogpool, you got Squirrelpool sometimes, you have the zombified head called Headpool, and you have Gladiator. Is that his name? And you got the Champion, who just decides to dress up like Deadpool when he teams up with him. I actually looked it up. The Deadpool Corps was founded by 616 Deadpool after he was chosen to stop a cosmic entity known as the Awareness from devouring the multiverse. perfect place to put the Deadpool core is Deadpool 3. Speaking of Deadpool, kind of, in a way, speaking of Deadpool's creator, Rob Liefeld has debuted a Bloodstrike concept trailer that looks like a video game trailer from, like, 2012 or so. Bloodstrike is Youngblood. Bloodstrike is X-Force, but not. It's legally distinct enough. That mask isn't Deadpool's mask. That's whatever that character's name is from Bloodstrike. I can't remember. I have a couple of the issues right over there in that bookshelf. But I am refusing to learn. I don't want to remember what the names are. This is going nowhere. Remember when Rob Liefeld... what the fuck was it? It was a new superhero, Superman-inspired. It's called, like, Hierarchy or some shit like that, where it's like, oh, yeah, I'm really gonna go into the whole rich versus poor dynamic and, like, the class divide in this new superhero series that I'm coming out with, said Rob Liefeld about 2 years ago when that announcement came. And then I think the character appeared in, like, a reprint of whatever comic he was reprinting, Prophet, maybe, and as like a 5-issue teaser, and then it never came out. So we are never seeing Bloodstrike, is what I'm getting at. A24 is reportedly looking to expand into action and big IP projects after recent box office losses. So all the Kino cinema fans, A24 is now dead to them. I don't have any horse in this race. A24, they make good films. They release some cool stuff. I'm fine with them branching out to... I don't know. What could they do? I don't know. They should have gotten the Halloween license. They should try to get into Nightmare on Elm Street. Imagine fucking Nightmare on Elm Street from A24. Ari... I don't want Ari Aster to do it. Someone else is... A24 Nightmare on Elm Street film. Oh, here we go. This is probably the biggest news, I guess, relative. Marvel has let go of all the writers and directors for Daredevil Born Again, as the series will get an entire creative reboot. This comes after months of nothing. And, the strikes happen. There was a little bit of some Daredevil stuff. They, had started filming it, apparently. And then it's just announced, yeah, we don't like this. We're scrapping it. Fucking back to the blackboard. There is a rumor I saw, which, take this with a huge fucking grain of salt. Daredevil Born Again puts a focus on what Matt can do as a lawyer and what Kingpin can do as mayor of New York. But when corrupt police start to misuse the Punisher's logo, the devil inside Matt is itching to be unleashed. Which is fucking insane if that's true, because that would mean that Daredevil Born Again would involve some sort of ACAB message, before, really even Marvel Comics has decided to really do that. They did that one Punisher issue where those cops have a fucking, they worship Punisher, and they have a sticker on their card, and Punisher tells them to go fuck themselves. That's it. This has kind of led some credence with the fact that it's like, oh, what Matt can do as a lawyer, because according to the rumors about what Born Again was going to be, it was a big procedural lawyer courtroom drama with Matt for about the first 4 episodes, and then he doesn't suit up and actually be Daredevil until that 4th episode or 5th episode. I really don't know what to say. I'll be honest, I don't care. It's fucked up that it's happening like this, and that they're not going to be able to go forward with their vision of what is being made. It's not in the similar vein of Zack Snyder or what Warner Brothers did to the Batgirl film, I feel, because it would have been different if Warner Brothers Discovery was like, okay, we don't like this Batgirl movie, we're gonna stop it here. We're gonna get some new people in and fucking redo it. Kind of like what Disney did with Solo. This is pretty much what Disney did with Solo. Which, while it was a shame, that was still a good movie. I enjoy it for the most part. But I feel like I knew so little about Daredevil Born Again that I can't really... I feel nothing about this news. I was shocked when I saw it, but I was also shocked when the article came out about, like, sometime this past week about Marvel Studios just making an entire rearrangement of their TV production following, quote, internal criticism. Articles that would speak about this bring up the fact that shows will now have proper showrunners that write pilots and show bibles, and it's a focus on multi-season serialized TV rather than limited series, which is insane. Are you telling me of the, 5, 6 Disney Plus Marvel shows that have come out, there hasn't been a showrunner for them? The showrunner are the people who make sure everything is concise and make sure that, they before the shows start, you get the writer's room, you get the showrunner, you get, I don't know, producers or whoever, people who don't do anything. You get them to come together. You come up with the show. You have a pretty detailed but still basic outline. You're not writing the episodes yet. And then what happens is that writers from that writer's room are assigned, like, episodes. And the showrunner is there as this overseer to make sure that everything stays in line and is concise. Well, not concise. It is like, yeah, what's the word I'm looking for? It's to making sure that it all feels like it's from the same thing. And for Disney to say that they apparently didn't do that? What? That would explain some things, I guess. But, like, what were they doing? Like, they must have had someone, if not, like, acting as showrunner in title, at least being there. Or unless it was, like, the producers of these shows were acting like the people in charge, or, like, the Disney higher-ups for the television departments were acting as showrunners or something. But, like, even then, that's not their primary focus. A showrunner's primary focus is to make sure the show runs. Hence the name. And if, like, maybe that's what is, like, a big thing coming out of it, that Daredevil Born Again is, being rebooted. Maybe that was an issue in that it just didn't fit with, one, what Disney wanted it to be, and two, it didn't fit with, like, I guess, the inner workings of the MCU and who Daredevil was previously, like, in the Netflix show and in the She-Hulk appearances. Like, maybe there just wasn't that connection, and it just felt like a completely different series. So, good God, what is happening? I do like, for the most part, that they're going to seemingly be doing a focus on a multi-seasoned serialized TV rather than limited series. That's cool. The only one so far I can really think of it making sense for that has been Hawkeye. Because, like, Captain America, that leads into Captain America 4. WandaVision, you can't really do that as a series. Loki, we're already getting that as a multi-series, so I feel like Loki is probably this, like, next step in evolution that the new Daredevil Born Again is going to be following. In that, also, that's another thing, maybe Daredevil Born Again was just meant to be this, like, it was meant to be a one-season show, or, like, a limited series, and then he sort of just goes off and does other stuff, or, like, I don't know, something happens to him again, even though that's kind of what happened at the end of each season of the Netflix show. But maybe it's like, oh, well, we don't want it to go in this direction anymore. We want it to span several seasons. And the fact that Daredevil doesn't show up until episode 4, well, we don't really like that. But there's a lot of shit going on behind the scenes, and to just be a fly on the wall in Kevin Feige's office, oh my God, I wonder if he ever takes the hat off and just fucking hits himself in the face with it. More drama that we're talking about behind the scenes is apparent Aquaman 2 drama. That's how I wrote it in here. A lot of A's. Taken from a Variety article by Tatiana Siegel. So this is a lot of crazy shit going on between Amber Heard and the cast and crew of Aquaman 2. I'm sure everybody who's watching this at this point has seen it, or has at least heard of it. Here's from the article. This is from the notes of Amber Heard's, like, therapist or somebody that the court got through subpoenas during the Depp trial. Jason said he wanted me fired, the notes say. Jason, drunk, late on set, dressing like Johnny, has all the rings too. He raised his voice at symbol me. I can't even post about Aquaman. Made it like it was my fault. I said I'm sorry, says Hughes' notes in reference to Juan. Quote, nobody could take selfies with me on set given blackout. So I don't want to go too far into the Amber Heard stuff, but this sounds like the raving lunacy of someone who is not all there with reality. My favorite thing from this is, where is it? Do I have it on here somewhere? It was something like, somebody from the studio said that Jason Momoa has always had that sort of outfit style, bohemian outfit dressing that it is similar to Johnny Depp, which is funny. Because it's like, that's just kind of how Jason Momoa seems to dress anyway, based on every time you see him pretty much anywhere. He has like these big billowy shirts and all this accessories and stuff. And it's just like Amber Heard just sees him and he immediately thinks that he is like mocking her as Johnny Depp. It's insane. Especially the part where it's like nobody could take selfies with me on set because there was a media blackout, which happens because they don't want stuff to get spoiled. But it's also like, that's such a vain and self-centered reason to be like, Jason Momoa and James Wan are trying to ruin me because I can't take a selfie. Also, something that's interesting to me is that, according to these notes, which are transcribed through an article from the notes of this actual whoever, who I don't know if they were handwritten or typed, but like I said, he raised his voice at symbol me. So, you know, this little A with a circle, like at an email. Who does that? How is that faster than just typing A and T or writing A-T? How is that shorthand for something? Like, was this just written on the person's, like, phone notes or something? Were they texting this to themselves and just trying to go as fast as possible? Is that why it's so disjointed of what Amber Heard was saying? I can't even, like, if you're writing, like, fucking writing that, I can't even do that very quickly. I have to think about where the circle goes and how to make the little A. That just seems like such a weird thing to do. Anyway, following Aquaman's release, this is how the article continues, in 2018, the studio and Wan decided that they wanted to drop Amber Heard from the sequel due to her lack of chemistry with Jason Momoa and sent a letter to her attorney informing them of the decision. But another source pushed back on the lack of chemistry narrative, noting that Heard did a chemistry test with Momoa before landing the role of Mera and beat out two other actresses who did a similar chemistry test, including Abby Lee, whoever that is. I would just like to counter this by saying two words. One name, Jake Lloyd. Jake Lloyd, everybody's favorite Star Wars actor. He played Anakin in Episode 1 and got horrendously bullied and had his life ruined and just went downhill from there. If you watch the behind-the-scenes making of documentary of Episode 1 of Phantom Menace, which is available in its completion on YouTube, highly recommend watching all three of those, by the way. They're really cool. There's such a fucking amazing scene where they're doing the casting for Anakin. And there is Jake Lloyd, compared to like 3 or 4 other young boy actors. And they're all so much better than him. Like, they're so much better than him at that age. They carry emotion better. This is the chemistry test. there's like a chemistry test. I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, there's a scene of the boys like alone in a room doing a script read, and then I want to say that there's a scene where they're like a couple of them are with Natalie doing chemistry tests. If not, then there's a scene of Jake Lloyd with Natalie Portman doing a chemistry test and like doing their lines back and forth. And there's a scene where George is with the producer. I'm pretty sure it's Rick McCallum. And they're talking about who they've hired as actors. And it's like, you know, they're walking away from set that day. It's like after the day's over, blah, blah. And they're going like, George is like, Natalie is fantastic. Ewan is great. And then there's a pause. And I learned a lot with Jake. Which is like, just right away, it's like he's already questioning and second guessing the person he just hired to be the main character of the film as they're making the film. So, it's... I feel like the whole chemistry test narrative about how she did well against other actors, it probably isn't the best argument to make. And the article ends describing how Amber Heard's former boyfriend, Elon Musk, had one of his litigators send a, quote, scorched earth letter to Warner Brothers threatening to burn the house down if the actress wasn't brought back for a sequel. So, yeah, if you want to be an actor, just fuck a rich, ugly guy who's South African and his family owned a horrible emerald mine or whatever, and get him to write a blackmail letter to get you jobs. That's the moral of this story. Moving on, Disney Plus. I should have brought this before back in the Disney Plus stuff. There's apparently going to be a Rocketeer reboot, and I am excited. And that's all I have to say. There was also the reveal that Guillermo del Toro was working on a Star Wars movie written by David S. Goyer called The Rise and Fall of Jabba the Hutt. What? Obviously, it didn't happen. It's been canceled. But can we please get that script leaked, please? David S. Goyer? Hashtag release the Goyer Jabba cut? That's crazy. I don't know if it would have worked. I doubt it ever would have come of anything. There's a whole Wikipedia page about canceled Guillermo del Toro projects. So I don't know if it would have happened. But that would have been neat. But speaking of Star Wars, we finally reach the topic of today's episode, and that is AHSOKA. Obviously, the show is now finished, so I'm just going to do a recap of my thoughts and feelings on the show. I'm just going to go down my list of bullet points, and then I'm going to talk about Loki Episode 1, because at this time, I have not seen Episode 2. AHSOKA! I loved it. I absolutely loved every second of the show. I loved it even more once Thrawn was introduced and they went to the other galaxy. I thought that was just the coolest fucking thing to see. I really loved Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka. I just completely lost the fact that she was Rosario Dawson. Something I don't know why, because I feel like when she was in Mandalorian, I was like, oh yeah, that's just Rosario Dawson. But in this, there's just something different. I don't know if it's like a makeup thing or the contacts that everybody lost their mind over. But I thought she did very well and just splendid. I loved seeing Hera, Mary Elizabeth Winstead. Sabine was awesome. Ray Stevenson was fucking incredible. My God, he is such a great actor. Shin Hati was really cool. She's very creepy. She did not blink a lot. And I just, like I said, I fucking love the show. I had a great time with the show. I definitely think it's one of my favorites from the live-action Star Wars shows now. Let's see, how would I rank them? What have there been? There's been 3 Mandalorians, 1 Boba Fett. And is it just Ahsoka? Is that it? Is that it? Yeah. I'm going to say Mandalorian Season 1, Ahsoka, Mando Season 2, Mando Season 3, Mando Season 2, and then Book of Boba Fett. And that's not to say I hated Book of Boba Fett. I liked it. It's not the best compared to these other ones. But moving on. Some of my notes. I loved seeing young Ahsoka in the Clone Wars flashbacks. For some reason, I thought that they should have had an intermediate Ahsoka for the Siege of Mandalore, because she just looks so tiny next to Hayden Christensen. But then going back and looking at actual clips of the animated show, I was like, oh yeah, no, she's perfect. That's the correct height. It just looks weird in live action. That was incredible to see. I love how much I forgot Obi-Wan. I forgot the Obi-Wan TV show. That goes somewhere in the middle. I love how much Hayden Christensen is coming back. Like, everybody fucking hated him 20 years ago. And now he's been in 3? How many Star Wars things has he been in already? He's been in a lot, really, in a short period of time all of a sudden. And I'm so glad that he's getting the respect he deserves. Seeing the Chimera for the first time, just that slow... It's like it's the opposite situation of Episode 4, A New Hope, where the ship is flying away, and that sort of, in a way, symbolizes the Empire is on its losing days and years. But now the Empire's coming back. So it's reappearing. That was awesome. I don't get the people bitching about the contacts. What's the deal with the contacts? Why was everyone so upset? Oh my god, they can't act now. They can't act with their eyeballs because their irises or their pupils irises are a different color than normal. Oh no. Whatever will they do? They can't act without their eye colors. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? That's what they look like. That's something cool. That is something that's original, I guess you could say, to Star Wars. Is like, give them weird colored eyes. Who cares? It's a crazy sci-fi story. You're watching a show where a fucking hot alien woman and her robot friend traveled through galaxies like goddamn Pinocchio in a giant whale. And contacts is where you draw the line? That's like being mad at bricks in Star Wars. Also, I forgot Andor. Which is obviously at the top. It's so far at the top that I forgot that it was a thing. It's Apocalypse Now in Star Wars. That is so cool. I loved that. I loved when I realized that. I was like, oh my god, it's Apocalypse Now in Star Wars. Thrawn is just Colonel Hertz. Oh my god, this is so cool. The holograms. The holograms are a big thing I liked in Ahsoka. Because the holograms, they're like this, not exactly jelly, sort of a digital jelly that comes down and sort of reforms. And they don't look like holograms that we've seen before. And it's on Morgan Elsbeth's just awesome, incredible looking golden ship. And the thing about the holograms makes sense perfectly in Star Wars canon. Because one, it's the Empire. Obviously, they're going to have advanced technology compared to everybody else. As particularly the New Republic and the Rebels. 2, those holograms that we see now lead in perfectly to the holograms we see 30 years in the future in The Force Awakens. Remember that giant Snoke hologram that everybody was like, holy shit, Snoke's a giant. And then his hologram shuts off, and then everybody was immediately like, that's not what holograms look like! This is the perfect explanation for that, is that it's the Empire. They, the remnants of the Empire, they are now, they're getting ready to either make their comeback or flee the galaxy. They have this technology that they're going to be working on for the next 30 years to get to the point that we see it at. It's just another example of Dave Filoni working at what he does best, is taking average to mediocre film storylines and then putting stuff in between there and making it work and making it incredible. Like I said, I loved Morgan's ship design. I love gold. It just looks so cool. I love the droids that she had and those fighter plane ships that her guards used. Those were so cool. Those were like right out of World War II. I feel like if George Lucas watches this, he'd be like, oh, that's really cool. Thrawn's Night Troopers, of course, were awesome. The zombie troopers are now canon. I'm very glad that Balin's skull did not die, although I am disappointed that this probably means we won't see him again, unless the fan casts come true and Liev Schreiber comes around to play him. I don't know if we're gonna get Balin's skull. The most realistic possibility that I can see is that Disney acquires the rights of Ray Stevenson's likeness to create a digi-double sort of effect like they did for Luke in The Mandalorian. And they just get a body actor and they do, you know, like the voice AI to restructure it that way. Alternatively, the second most reasonable option I see is that whatever he's doing, the effects are felt elsewhere. He doesn't appear anymore. If he does appear, he has his hood up, he's in shadow. And the father, son, and the sister of the Force, those giant statues he was standing on at the finale, he's going to do something there, and it's going to open, like, the world between worlds, or maybe that's what he was up to, is trying to get to the world between worlds, and, like, use time travel in some way to reset what is happening. I don't know. To go back and fucking eradicate the Jedi Academy thousands of years ago and make it his own, because he likes the idea more than he did the example. But yeah, I'm glad that they didn't kill him off, I guess, is what I'm trying to get at. And I am also very glad that Thrawn won. Because that whole last episode was like, come on, Thrawn, go, they're gonna get you. The bad guys are gonna stop your plans of bringing about peace and order to this galaxy. Get out of here, Thrawn, go. I was rooting for him the whole time. I'm glad only Ezra escaped, but, you know, it still foiled his plans. And I was like, what the fuck are you doing, Thrawn? Why aren't you just leaving? You have everything packed up. And then as the episode progressed, I was like, oh, he didn't leave when he should have earlier. One, because he probably wanted to gloat, and two, because he needed to ditch Morgan Elsbeth here. Morgan Elsbeth was some sort of former Imperial official. She's also a Night Sister descendant. That is not a great enemy to have, especially when you have spent the last 10, 15-ish years working with 3 other Night Sisters who treat you as a god king. When you have one little dissenter over here, it's probably not a great idea to keep around just in case. Just in case that she doesn't want to follow your plans. Doesn't like what you're doing on Dathomir or something. She might cause some issues is what I'm getting at. And so Thrawn is waiting around until Ahsoka and Sabine and Ezra, who he knows are going to be able to get through his fucking guys. It's all part of the plan. He's just waiting for them to get close enough to the point where he's like, okay, Morgan Elsbeth, are you ready to fulfill your destiny? Fucking here's a green fire sword. Go stop him. Alright, let's go. That was all part of his plan, wasn't it? Is just to ditch her there, so that's just a loose end that he's not going to have to deal with. I hope that whatever sequel show this is, or whatever sequel series comes after this, Heir to the Empire, I guess, I hope it's a show and not a movie. There are rumors of, like, that this was all leading up to an Endgame-style movie, but I really hope that's not the case. I would rather it be a TV show, and that way we get to explore more of the galaxy during this time. Because I don't... And if it is a show, at least 2 or 3 seasons. Really extend this out and make it feel worthwhile, rather than just, oh, one and done. Season's over. 8 episodes, they defeated Thrawn. Or like 8 episodes, they defeated Thrawn by causing him to either die or get killed, or he goes to the unknown regions, which is where the First Order are currently working on their shit at. That was always my theory at the very end of Rebels, or like before Rebels ended. I was like, oh, well, wouldn't it be cool if Thrawn gets like relocated to the unknown regions to work on Starkiller Base or something of that effect? So maybe that'll happen. I don't know, maybe they'll keep Thrawn around some way. But probably not, since Thrawn, you know, he dies in Heir to the Empire. The original. And finally, the thing everybody questioned about Ahsoka, Marok. That weird, cool Sith Knight guy. What was he all about? What's that little dude doing? I think it's some sort of Sith spirit, is what my initial thoughts were, that was possessing the armor, similar to how we see Darth Bane possessing his armor at the end. But it's also possible that it's some sort of Night Brother spirit, or Night Sister spirit. Probably a Night Brother, I'd imagine, since it's a male. But who am I to say? But I really like the idea that it's like a evil Sith spirit that the Night Sisters conjured up and fucking just stuck in this old suit of armor. But that's like the last thing I have to discuss about AHSOKA, the TV series. I highly enjoyed it. I very much loved it. I'm looking forward to where it goes next. I wonder if there's going to be AHSOKA Season 2. I'd imagine it just goes straight into whatever this new Thrawn problem is going to be. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. And finally, Loki. Like I said, I've only had the chance to watch the first episode, so we're behind 2 episodes, because the third one came out today. I honestly don't know what day the shows come out. It might be Wednesday, it might be Thursday. Who's to say? Not me, because I don't know. Loki Episode 1. OB's past and present discussion with Loki was really cool. That's such a neat idea. I loved Kehu Kwan. He is such an awesome actor. It's great that he's getting more roles finally and getting the recognition he deserves. Just like Ultra Humanite. That was just a really cool thing to see. I just love the interactions with him, and then Loki's getting fucking shot around time, and he's having a conversation with Loki in the past while he's also remembering the conversation in the present. That's just such an out there idea that it's cool to see in something as, at this point, mainstream as the MCU. But I guess Loki makes sense for the show to have that in. It's a pretty out there show. The time loom thing that, like, the outside of the TV... Is it outside the TVA? Is that where that is? Is, like, the TVA encapsulated in something? Or is that time loom with all the time universes that Mobius goes out to, that Loki's, like, you know, he grapples him in from... Is that, like... Is that something contained in the TVA? I don't know if they really specified. There's some sort of TVA civil war / schism that is approaching and building up and ramping up. I don't possibly know how it could happen or like what's gonna happen. Obviously it's gonna be like the people who realize, or at least the heads of the TVA realize that they were plucked out of their timelines and taken here for whatever reason. Seemingly, possibly because they're like, I don't remember what it's called in the show, but like their canon event didn't work properly or something, so like Kang plucked him out of there and just kept him here until they had enough people that he could just prune additional universes completely. But it's probably going to be the people who, you know, don't want to stop Sylvie and want to break the truth to everybody, versus the people who want to keep the truth a secret. So that's going to be interesting to see where it goes. And then I saw people saying, like, oh my god, Kang didn't even show up in this episode, the first episode of Loki, and he's already a better Kang than the Kang in Quantumania. Here's my thoughts on that. Kang in Quantumania is like the 1960s comic book Kang. He's the Kang where he shows up in the Avengers issue, and he's the Kang in Quantumania is the 1960s, the original Kang from the comics. He's the Kang who shows up in an Avengers issue here and there. He talks about how he's going to fight the Avengers and he's going to bring about world domination to the 20th century. And he talks about how inferior women are because it's written by Stan Lee or whatever. And he's just a dummy who gets defeated in one issue. Whereas Loki Kang is modern Kang, and the quality difference... Loki Kang is modern Kang from, like, the past 15 years or so, where he actually has storylines and character and reasons for doing things. And the quality difference between both of them is literally explained away because they're two different versions of the same guy. It's literally a perfect in-universe explanation for bad writing. That Kang over there, the one from Quantumania that the Council of Kangs hated so much that they ditched him in the quantum realm, he's just an idiot who wants to... He's just like a mustache-twirling villain. That's why none of them liked him. He's just a dickhead. And he pees with the toilet seat down in the Council of Kang's bathroom chamber. Loki Kang, whatever he's up to, he's like the devious mastermind Kang that everybody's afraid of. And he's a cool dude, unlike another Kang that chokes women. But that's really all I have to say about Loki. I'm highly looking forward to it. Really looking forward to it. I should be seeing both episodes by the time this episode comes out, or by the time this podcast comes out. So let me know what you're thinking of it in the comments below. How you think it's holding up compared to the first season. I think it's about on the same level, if not a bit better so far, based on the first episode. But I am really, really digging it. I'm liking what I'm seeing, and I'm looking forward to more. As always, check out my Patreon and Etsy shop for all my stuff. Follow me on Instagram at NotBlakeWild for updates and posts on there. And let me know what you thought of this episode in the comments below. What are you thinking of AHSOKA? What are your thoughts? How do you feel? What are your thoughts on the Aquaman drama? Are you interested in Aquaman 2? I was, and then as time goes on, I've been growing less and less interested, primarily because it's from a dead universe now at this point, which is the Snyderverse. So who really cares what happens? Daredevil Born Again, that's some fucked up, stuff that happened there. Let me know everything I talked about in this episode. Bring it up in the comments below. And yeah, I'll see you next week for an all-new spooky episode where I talk about my favorite horror films. Bye.